Good day and welcome back to Talking Technical. And there's some good news for you guys that is a keen watcher of Christelle's shows. Remember, she's on maternity leave, and we will be happy to announce that there is maybe a baby coming in a week or two. So she's at the moment not in the office, hanging around in the house and waiting, and I will do Talking Technical for a few weeks. So it's an old face. You guys know me well. And let's kick off with some requests that we've got. Well, first of all, boring is not always boring. And that's why I pulled out this chart, because a friend of mine actually asked me to talk about it. And he said to me, Frans, I am a watcher of Talking Technical for many years. I'm a viewer there. And I love the show. But you know what? Sometimes I've got a share that just hassles me and it actually goes nowhere. And I immediately thought about, he was talking about Orion minerals that is absolutely doing nothing. He's just floating between 20 cents and 24 cents and doing nothing. But he then said to me, Frans, I've got the share with the name of Reunert. Can you please discuss it? And can you also tell the viewers that boring is also boring, but always sometimes excited? But this is exactly what happens with Reunert. Reunert is a stock that since 2020 through 2023 is absolutely marking the pace. And it is consolidating between 63 Rand and 52 Rand. Now, what happens when a share does that? And I've mentioned it on the show many a time. When you find a share absolutely doing nothing, that tells you that even the buyers and the sellers trying to find out what is the valid price for that share to trade in. And look at the stochastic. In this period, yes, there was many trading opportunities. It's up, you can short it a little bit, you can go long, you can play around, but for the long-term investor, it was just so boring. Because if you look at this line, let's use this horizontal, absolutely nothing in this band. It doesn't break out. And let's use the bottom end, more or less, and it absolutely is doing nothing. So the big thing is, if you are a stockholder for the long term, you just wait, because you like the company and you know that you need to worry when the share starts to drop below the support line. And the day that it breaks above it, all the buyers and sellers in this, let's call it 2-year period, decided that the price needs to be higher and they are prepared to pay much higher for it. So then, if it breaks above this level, let's call it 63 Rand, it can go to 70 Rand. And on the other hand, if it breaks below 55, it can go to 50. So yes, in the meantime, it is boring. It tells you that investors are sussing each other out. In the meantime, you do get your dividend. It's a solid company. So it's short, and the long of it is, if you are a long-term investor, you just hold on to it, you wait, and because you believe in the company, it will probably break up to the top. But on the other hand, if you are a trader, you can make use of these tiny little swings, but that's usually just a 1 or a 2% move, and that is not that excited if you are a trader. Let's look at Bell Equipment. Well, I mean, this company is a beautiful rand hedge, but they also do a few things right. And look what happened. It's the same sort of thing. For a very long time, the share absolutely did nothing. Look at it. There was the consolidation phase, if you look at it, and the share just traded around a certain level. It was trading between 18 Rand 50 and let's call it 13 Rand. And then suddenly on one day, the share started to move above that and it rallied from 18 Rand to 24 Rand. So that brings me back to that discussion of Reunert. If you are a patient investor, you know that in time to come, it will break up or down. But Bell gave some wonderful tips. There was the low, there was a higher low, higher low, higher low, and then it broke. And the big thing is, look at your 50-day moving average. It started to slope upwards all the way, and the buyers just climb in. But now, for the moment, I think Bell rallied very hard. It gave us a beautiful lamp ball formation. Of course, if you are a long-term investor, you're not going to really bother about it. Or if you are a trader, you will immediately see this gap. Let's have a look at this gap. I just want to draw it in there. There's the gap for you. And this gap is purely one of those things. It is between 23 Rand 67 and it is between 23 Rand and 5 cents. Now, while this gap is open, the momentum is to the top, but look at these upper shadows. These upper shadows are telling you that the share can maybe lose some momentum and it can maybe falter. But of course, above that top of that candle, 24.97, the share can just move higher and everybody will be happy to keep the stock. But if you are a trader, below 24.97, you believe that this gap can close. So yes, you can short it on the gap, and that is between 23.67. You hope it close. Your stop loss is 24.97. And if it really breaks, the targets to the bottom is 22.55, 23.04, and even as low as 21 Rand and 15 cents. And of course, the stochastic is right at the top. And for me, look what the share did in the past. Every time it came back to this 50-day moving average, it will spike a little bit above it, then come back even there, and now it rallied way above it. So you'll probably find that this 50-day moving average will slowly creep to the top, and eventually the share will probably meet up there. So yes, there's maybe a shorting opportunity here, but the big thing to watch out for if you are a long-term investor, yes, a share can keep you busy for a long time, but if you are a long-term investor, it is not really the case to worry about. Let's have a look at Zeda. I had a request about it, and the guy said, Frans, I want to buy Zeda. I like the company. It actually does very well, and it looks like things are turning for the better. And he wanted to buy it on the day that you actually saw this wonderful spike. I mean, that's almost a 10% rally in one day. It did it before, and it rallied also, I think, 7 or 8% there. And even there, it rallied about 5 to 6%. And what happens every time out of this wonderful Marubuzu candle, it's not long and then it pulled back. Same there, it rallied up. Yes, it took about 14 days and then it started to lose momentum. Same here. So what is the rule here? I usually do the following. If I look at a share, I always see a share as an actor in a big show or a big play. And this actor has certain personality. And this personality tells me about that actor. And Zeda's actor is telling me it loves to spike and then it cools off a little bit. So, yes, I will say don't buy it unless you are a brave man and you like to buy momentum. Then you buy it above 12 Rand 40. You make use of a stop loss, and there's a massive stop loss, that 50-day moving average, 11.34. There's even a tighter one at 12.19, the top of that candle. But I am never keen to buy on momentum. I know a lot of people love to do that. I tend to wait for a tweezer bottom or a dragonfly candle because I catch it reasonably low in the move or early in the move, and then I'll sit on the stock. But I never chase momentum to the top. So this is just one of those rules that you can maybe put in the back of your mind. Don't just chase momentum. Yes, if you chase momentum, sometimes you're very lucky for 14 days and then it can come back. But in Zeda's case, it showed us before that every time that it gave us these beautiful candles, these strong candles, what happened? It wasn't long, then it cooled off. Even on the selling side, look at that, strong selling candles, and it came back and it turned up. So it looks like Zeda is keen to trade around its 50-day moving average. And the 50-day moving average, as we all know, for a very long time, it is a nice moving average to trade around or even guide your thinking. Above it, for the medium term, it's positive, and below 50-day moving average, it's negative. Well, let's have a look at Meta. I mean, it's the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ is just one of those indexes that's driven all by these technological stocks. And look at this. Meta, it's on the brink of breaking up. I mean, The world is worried about America's debt levels and they're worried about it, but Meta is in a different class like all the others. Nvidia, Microsoft, all those shares are just right at the top. They believe that they can go higher. The one thing that worries me about Meta is it works wonderfully with the stochastic. Look what happened there. They rallied in one way to the top in the stochastic state, right at the top. That tells you that the momentum is clearly to the top, and be careful about it. But what happens in the last few months, let's say for the last 6 months, suddenly Meta moves wonderfully with the stochastic. When the stochastic is at the top, it comes back. The share price also does that same here. Goes up and the share price also goes up. And same there down, it follows it 100%. So for me, if it is correct now, the stochastic is right at the top. It's at the stochastic of 94, so it's really stretched. And the big thing is this little support line is holding the key. And that support line sits at 326, right there. 326, that's the level. If Meta can break below 326, we can easily see it heading maybe down to the 50-day moving average. And boy, oh boy, it can even go to this support line here at the bottom of 275. And I really hope not that it breaks here, because if it does break there, there is maybe a tiny little opportunity for you to maybe go and close this gap here right at the bottom, waiting at around 230. Maybe I'm wrong, but Meta had a wonderful rally, and it's holding the index, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. It's holding it right at the top. And it's all those few shares. It's Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia. They have few. There's a few of them. I think it's 7. They say Apple is one of them as well. That's holding that index right at the top. Let's have a look at Newmont Mining. And that's now for all the gold bulls around. And they say to themselves, well, we look at some local gold shares. They're doing well. But look what I see at Newmont Mining. We're not that far from the bottom end of this descending channel. Let's just draw in that line. And the moment I draw in that line, you will see that it is a descending channel to the downside. There you are. Classic descending channel. And what will happen? It's trying to find its feet around you. And for me, it's quite simple. If you draw in a little line there, then it will tell you that the stochastic is rock bottom. And if it turns up from here, you can maybe see a beautiful relief rally. And when will the chart start to show that? There's the high of the candle. The high of that candle is 34.61. Above 34.61, you can see the chart is ticking higher. And what do we see? There is a tiny little gap here. That gap sits between 36.36 and the low is 36.54. So yes, it can easily go between this gap, that let's say 36.50 level. It can close this gap. But the big move in Newmont Mining, of course, will be when the share, first of all, breaks this 50-day moving average, because look at the slope. The slope is purely to the downside. So you'll probably find that around here sometime, if the share finds some buyers, it will slope out. It will sort of make a little bit of a U shape, and then it will go up. But for me, first signal to buy is above 34.61. My stop loss, I will take it a little bit lower than the low of this candle. I will actually take it to the low of this support line, and that is sitting at 33.19. So below 33.19, I think the chart can actually go lower, and that will be my stop loss. But let's hope it can close this gap. And then, of course, the 50-day 38.24. And if it breaks 39.31, oh my boy, then it can really go, because there's your target. Let's do that. And we do the extension from there, straight up. There's the extension. And it can take Newmont Mining, can you believe it, to the previous high of around, there you are, 45.92. So yes, this chart tells you that some investors are looking out to maybe see that the gold price can actually become stronger, maybe move above 2,000. And Newmont Mining, they are big players in that, but they also do other minerals as well. But Newmont is well known for their gold production. Well, let's have a look at Johnson & Johnson. While Christel is going to have a baby, let's have a look at Johnson & Johnson, because I'm sure they definitely make use of their products. I mean, we use Johnson & Johnson for our little kids. Now they're all adults, but I think Johnson & Johnson will be here many, many years from now. Well, let's have a look at Johnson & Johnson. Well-known brand in America, well-known brand in the world. It's not just in America. Remember, this one is listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And what do we see? We see also here a descending channel. I just want to draw in the line there. Let's draw in the line. There you are. Beautiful descending channel. Maybe a tiny little tweezer bottom developing here. But for me, the clue will be if it breaks above that line is sitting at $150.10. My stop loss will be 145.64. And my target, of course, again, I will do the extension there. There's the extension. And of course, it can take it all the way up to 164.45. So yes, if it breaks this resistance line, first target the 50-day moving average, then the high around here, the resistance levels around here is close to 159.40. And then if it plays out in full, it will probably go to 164.60. So for me, it's quite simple. In always, I say I've got the target to the top. And if I'm nervous, I take my money and go. Otherwise, I wait patiently for the chart to play it out. Let's look at Goldfields, South Africa, GFI. Good, solid gold performer. They've got mines here. They've got mines up in Africa as well. But what worries me, Harmony Gold is doing well. And it's really flying and it's doing well. I mean, the other day it went up 9%, almost you can say in a straight line. Suddenly Goldfields is starting to lose momentum. And I always say to myself, if a share in an index or in a sector suddenly starts to lose momentum and everybody's starting to sell the stock, then something else is maybe wrong because it doesn't follow the sector. So it makes me a little bit nervous. So if I look at Goldfields here, first of all, below the 50-day moving average, the 50-day moving average is sitting at 239.77. So for me, the first thing is it needs to get above 239.77 to make me excited. On the other hand, it's very close to be oversold, but I do not see any reversal candles here. And I wonder if we're not all the way slowly but surely ticking lower and we're heading to this gap. And there's this gap. So for me, I'm a little bit nervous on Goldfields. I mean, there's some people that loves the share and loves the company. But I wonder if we're not going to head up to close this little gap between 221.10 and 217 Rand. So maybe at 217 Rand, the stock will be rock bottom, the stochastic will be rock bottom, and maybe we can see maybe a turn up from here, but maybe first close this gap. I'm always nervous about gaps because the reason is the rule in technical analysis say yes. Usually we trade away from the gap. Look what happened there. The gap opened and the share price rallied all the way above that. But we know that also that gaps is always closing in time. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but sometime in future, because this was just an emotional gap, and emotional gaps usually tend to close. So maybe watch out. It can maybe head all the way down to close this little gap. Let's kick off, or let's close the show with Exxaro. And I mean, it's a nice resources company, but what worries me a little bit, we are on our way here, and there's the support line. I just want to show you that we're heading nicely, and nothing looks like it can mess around with this company, but they slowly but surely starting to show that there is maybe a rising wedge developing. So be a little bit nervous, and it breaks below 187.27, and then it can maybe go all the way 164 down. I just did the extension here with the mouse. Maybe I'm a little bit out of my level. I think it's closer to 167.97, but I'm a little bit nervous. I don't like it, so be a little bit careful. it is oversold. It can maybe give you a little bit of a bounce, but if this support line breaks, things will not looking rosy for Exxaro. Thank you for watching the show. Hold thumbs for Christelle, and we will chat again. And visit our website www.fransdeklerk.com for more info. And as always, we will chat to you again.